All right, so I typically don't look at reviews. However, I did peek at a few, and it seems that I am not the only one who has mixed feelings about this film. Nonetheless, Zero and I are going to start the review of this film right now. What's up, everybody? It's Najir alongside Zero, and we're back today for another movie review. So today we're reviewing the film Skull the Mask, which is going to be releasing May 27th on Shudder. Now, this film did release last year. It is a Brazilian film, so it did have a release date of last year, and it also hit the film festival circuit a little bit. So there is a ton of reviews kind of out there already, but nonetheless, Shudder has acquired it and now given it its release date. As I said, the 27th of May. Nonetheless, this film is about Zero.
Well, okay, so we have a pre-Columbian artifact that has made its way over the years, I want to say about 500 of them, to Brazil. And unfortunately, we have a little bit of mishandling of this ancient artifact.
A little bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Which causes a string of supernatural killings, which we then have to get to the bottom of. And
yeah. I will say that I'm going to ask you to do this one more time. Not because that is what the film's about, but I want you to give me the most plain Jane version of what this film is, because you've seen way more films than I have, and I know you've seen this film before. So if you just take, pun intended, the mask off here, what is this film? Like, what exactly is this film? Because to me, by no means did this film try to reinvent the wheel by any stretch or metric, like at all.
Yeah. We're getting a very Jason Voorhees adjacent kind of story here, and it's like you said, it's not reinventing the wheel. Definitely not. It's paying homage to the practical effects. It's zeroing in on what it's, what they know that their strengths are, but I could just leave it at that. I think that this film knows exactly what its strengths are and are not. Yeah.
I just wanted you to say it, but yeah, as I said, it's a Brazilian film, so it is spoken in the native language of Portuguese, and it does have subtitles. Now, here's something that I think is very important here. With everything that's happening in this film, with the abundance of subtitles, and you're kind of trying to get the gist of what's happening here, because you are having essentially sort of two time periods happening. You're having when the artifact was first found, then you have it all the way until it's modernly being used. And because so you're trying to find essentially like the origins of this. You're trying to make sense of how this became what it is. The subtitles isn't really overbearing to the point that you can't keep up with them and also appreciate the film. I also will go as far as saying if you do get lost in the subtitles, I also think you don't get lost in the film. I think you can watch this film strictly for what's happening and take it for what it's worth there. Mm-hmm. But I have to say that this film, I was not really big on this. And again, I saw a lot of mixed feelings. I saw some people really loving this, and then I saw people that felt more like me. And I think because of the idea that this film did not really reinvent the wheel, which isn't, a need, but because it feels like one of those Jason Voorhees slasher movies, and the aesthetics of this film, which sort of to me feels low budget, and then like there's some criminally bad acting in this. Like when I say like bad acting, I mean there's this one particular character that is the most exaggerated character I've ever seen in my entire life. Like this cop is the most, like, if this cop was in America, every black person would be absolutely scared of this person, because like she's more scarier than the villain to me, if you ask me, because she's so like the exaggeration of personality, how trigger happy she is and everything is just kind of mind blowing to me how that character is in here. But like I definitely, like, all jokes aside, like I definitely was like, what is happening with this character? Like it just was just really, really bad to me. But and I will say, like, this is color grading, or like, sort of a schemish style look that it has to the beginning. You're kind of wondering, like, is this to kind of tell apart the two time periods, or is this actually the look of the film, which was a little bit confusing. And like, I overall did come to appreciate it, but it also was, to me, it created the idea, like, it feels like a low budget film because of this look. And like, it's one of those type of things where it's just like, this is kind of probably a bad analogy, but when people get brand new cars and then they do like the matte black paint on it, it's like, well, your new car, the idea of a new car is shiny, and then you get it and then you matte black, you're like, well, how old is it, or how new is it? And it's just like, I'm kind of getting the mixed signals from this, and that's kind of how I felt with like this color grading with this. It's like, I didn't know which way to go with it until ultimately towards then I was like, okay, I guess I can dig it.
I'm with you there. I really am with you there. I think that I actually have the color grading written down in my notes as well. I was feeling it. I was. After once we get past the 1940s era of the film, I was feeling it. It kind of matched up with the blood red of this character that we have. And I thought it was kind of funky in a cool way. I mean, I really like the car analogy, but I kind of thought of it as, when you're like on Instagram and you see a picture of like anything, and whoever's like profile is that, they'll add that grainy effect over it.
Yep.
And that it's not actually, taken with like a Bolex or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Filter, but it does a little something for it. And I really did like how the background, especially being in Brazil, I thought it was kind of vibey. But I want to go back to our main character, our cop here, criminal, and just criminal. I have that written down too. I wanted to like this film a lot more than I did. For me, I just put all of the emphasis on the actual masked character and the folklore. I didn't even want to pay attention to whatever homegirl had going on. She had a backstory that I think was supposed to be important for the storytelling, but I don't really, it just emphasized how trigger happy she was. And even if she was trigger happy and that added something to her character, I don't really think it worked out in her favor in the end.
Or ours.
Yeah, at all. At all. And then that adjacent storyline with the museum. And I think there were too many conflicting things, too many little adjacent issues to our main issue. And I think that's what took away from just leaving this film as just a shady, low budget slasher, blah blah blah, and because we can appreciate those. I can appreciate those for what they are. I can go back right now and watch all of the Friday the 13th films, and I can tell you honestly, they're not the best films out there. They're campy. No one's really watching them for the plot. Nobody's watching those for the writing. We watch those because the gore is awesome, the killer is iconic, and everything else just kind of rolls within that alley. And I wanted to feel that way here, but there was so much like noise from these other avenues that just wouldn't let me focus in on that. So kind of a bummer.
I mean, like you said, everybody can appreciate a little, if you know it or not, but everybody can appreciate that grindhouse style. Like it's very synonymous with a lot of people's appreciation for horror films, and that's what this is. It looks it feels it. But yeah, there's way too many distractions from other things happening aside from the core set antagonist here. And the killer, is our focal point, and everything's taken away from. I mean, I honestly got to say, like, another gripe that I really had with this film, along to that exact same point, was another character who this priest all of a sudden had hand-to-hand combat skills by the power of Jesus to fight him. And I'm like, where did this come from? And it was such a distraction. It had its own scene, which I could have did without. It had, when I say its own scene, like, it was clearly like a scene planted into this, because it had its own look. and everything. It looked like a 2D fighting game put into this, where it was the priest versus the killer, and it was like, what? And then, and then like it was just so awkward that it had to be there, that I just was like, I can't overlook this. And to something else you said earlier too, I thought you were going to mention with the sound. I wasn't really big on the score or the sound mixing because, and to your point, I also see why this was the way it was, because I didn't like the score because I felt like it didn't really set the mood or the predicament really happening. Like I felt like if the killer is going out there being 21 Savage, then I need some hardcore music with it. And it was sometimes this film felt like a old school New York mob crime gangster film with this score. Like it felt like somebody was going around with their flashlight looking for something and he found a clue, and it was like, oh, a clue. But instead, we're seeing that with somebody getting their face ripped off.
Yeah, it doesn't really line up.
It did not line up for me, and and again, I understand that's how the older films kind of were. I mean, like composers have come a long way. I mean, they've become they were an afterthought to essentially a composer can absolutely make a film. I mean, you know, some films drive on a composer so hard they are the film. You know, movies like Greyhound and stuff like so. You know, it's just one of those type of things where now you gain so much appreciation for it. That's why it's such a critical element in looking at a film. It's like, well, what's the score going to be like? And I feel like with horror films, you know, we say it all the time. We need to invest into the safety of the characters when there's an imminent threat happening here. And like I'm pretty sure I can speak for the both of us that we didn't connect with anybody being attacked. Even the innocent bystander, I was like, oh, whoops.
Yeah.
Like, shouldn't have been there. But like, it's also the idea that, you know, you go back to the Friday 13s and whatnot. Those iconic movies have iconic characters, iconic scene, and obviously the biggest thing here, the iconic score attached to it, so that when you knew something was happening, you just felt the elevation of things happening. Like you just felt it. You just like, oh, something's happening. The music's building up. The sound is building up, or it's lowering down. But this one was, I mean, I got to be honest. This score could have been put on an episode of Blue's Clues, and it would have worked. It would have worked fine. I was so thrown off by that. I just could not. I just was just like, it felt like a old school New York crime mob / gangster mystery type of film. Like
I am dead. See, usually with these kind of campy films, it's the score and the sound that will have you like, all right, something's about to happen now. This is it. You know, it's kind of like the prelude, the foreshadowing. Yep. And honestly, the only thing that I could acknowledge as a prelude to somebody's about to get got is the car sex scene. Because, I mean, I'm automatically thinking Friday the 13th, sexually active teenagers at Camp Crystal Lake are always going to be doomed to hell. Yep. So, you know, there's the couple getting it on in the car, and I'm like, okay, this is a sign. But other than that, yeah, I wasn't really feeling it. But the one good thing I can say, not about the score necessarily, but the Foley in the beginning, in the opening scene, it was a cool scene. I thought it was cool. Yeah. There was some ass kicking, and the Foley I thought was it. That was where I had my original. Oh, this is going to be a campy Friday the 13th-esque kind of slasher film, because the Foley is like of the punches and the stabs and the slices is really exaggerated. And, you know, that's not what a knife into the stomach sounds like in real life, but same thing in all of our other classic slasher campy movies. They exaggerate, they play up the slicing and the and you know, and it's supposed to have that good level of cheese on purpose. So that's when I thought that opening scene, I'm like, okay, this is going to be one of those over the top, you know, action gore films that, you know, this is going to be the forefront of the film. And I was totally rocking with that until we got all these the kids abducted and the this and the lady won't put down her gun and this and that. And then all that just kind of got muddied up. I think if they were to just like wipe 60% of that stuff out, we would have a better chance of this being just like, oh, it's a fun film. I enjoyed it. There was some good practical effects. There was some action. But that just kind of threw a blanket over that that subgenre of slasher that is the cheesy. We love that. We love that stuff. But it muddied it up here, which was disappointing for me because I wanted to like this. And also our antagonist, the skull guy, I think he was pretty cool. I think he could have used a little work. I think that the mask itself could exist outside of this film, meaning that, like, you see Jason Voorhees, like, on a picture online and you're like, that's Jason Voorhees, Friday the 13th, I think that this mask could exist outside of these films. But I really wanted them to play with here's the mask and here's the host kind of thing. That's what we were teased in the beginning, that it's not the host, it's the mask. And then it just kind of turned into, it's this crazy guy who's been possessed by a supernatural entity. Oh, that old chestnut. Oh, okay.
Yeah, agree. I mean, look, for my final point with this film, like, this film absolutely took itself serious. It did. It wanted to be 100% serious, and I laughed way more times than I should have. I mean, by no means is this film going after the idea of being a comedy, but there are some very, very funny, outrageous, just bizarre scenes that happen. But because it takes itself serious, and then from the things we mentioned, you're like, well, this sounds funny. Well, yeah, it is, but like, it wanted to be serious. And to your point that you made, if the distractions of the humor and the comedies was removed from it, you cut the film down some, and it's just overall becomes a super enjoyable film because it knows what it wants to do, and it lands its target regardless of the quality and the budget and whatnot. It would absolutely the whole entire ride will have a lot more continuity than this had, because this was like a bad road trip from hell with your family where you're just trying to get there, but everybody wants to stop at every road stop for whatever reason. If you're on the East Coast, you're going down south, you got to stop at south of the border for whatever reason, because you've already been a billion times and you got all these things you need to buy, and this is like, we've done this. And then on the way back, you go again. You're just like, well, why? And that's how I felt in this. It's just like, why is the priest a martial artist? Why is this cop so damn trigger happy and so exaggerated in a personality? And why did this archaeologist had one job to take this to her job, but she takes it to her girlfriend's house? Don't touch it, girlfriend. What does the girlfriend do, folks? She touches it, and she unleashes this ancient. Yeah, she unleashes the ancient relic, and it goes around modern civilization, and it attacks everybody. It gets a host, and it attacks innocent people, and that sounds cool until it doesn't do cool things, because it does all this other random stuff that could have just not been in the film. So that is my gripe, and that is the conclusion of my thoughts of this film.
Hard agree. Hard agree.
Anything else you want to add, and we're going to wrap this up?
That's about it.
All right. Well, folks, again, I think it's definitely worth a watch. Just watch it and see what you think. Again, there's mixed feelings. These are our feelings of this. This is Skull of the Mask. It's on Shudder, May 27th. Much like the film, we should just start the review over, because that would just make no sense at all. But that's what the film was doing at times. It was just like going this way, and then they went that way, and blah, da, boom. But you'll see what we're talking about, and you can make your own assessments for yourself. But by all means, once you check it out, jump in the comments and let us know your thoughts of this film. But until then, folks, stay tuned, because we got more reviews coming very soon. And also, one more time, folks, thank you so much for all the love and support. We hit 10,000 subscribers. That means a lot. We're going to keep grinding. We got more content coming. but we couldn't be here without all of your help, love, and support. So we just wanted to give you our biggest thank yous, hugs, virtual hugs, and all the social distancing hugs, all that other good stuff. And yeah, as I said, stay tuned because we got more stuff coming. But thank you so much for checking out this review, folks, and we'll see you all very soon.